1978. My wife and I got married in India, and by sheer coincidence, her father and Makarios Tirumeni were great friends. Been together when the first parish in Delhi. My father-in-law had been one of the members of that parish, one of the founding members, and Makarios Tirumeni was the first priest. So anyway, they'd known each other and been good friends for a long time. So he said to Gita Kochima after we got married, he said, well, when you get back to the States, call Tirumeni, tell him you're my daughter, and he hasn't seen you in a long time, and one thing led to another. We started getting into a conversation, Makarios Tirumeni and I, about kind of the need for mission work and expanding the Orthodox Church in the United States. So what happened was that we talked off and on the phone, and he'd call us sometimes, and we'd call him just to say hello, and then we kind of hit on the idea of starting a parish in Spokane, which was not a very typical place for a parish then. As you're probably aware, most parishes were started a lot of times because a woman had come, who was a nurse, had come to the United States with her husband and family. She got a visa to work here, and sometimes if the husband happened to be a priest, they started a parish because there would be, people around that wanted a parish and wanted to be able to receive the sacraments, go to Holy Korban, and so on. And so, anyway, that's how most of them started. But Spokane was a different thing. There were very, very, very few Malayalis here, and we just kind of hit on the idea of starting something that was really not. It was just really kind of one of our parishes, but for everybody who wanted to be Orthodox or was already Orthodox from another background, wanted to be part of the parish. So Makarios Tirumeni visited Spokane the first time in 1984. And then, it was kind of a funny situation, almost embarrassing for me. We were sitting at there were a number of people from Eritrea in Spokane at that point that had come as refugees. And so we were all sitting in the house having dinner. And so while we were doing that, Makarios Tirumeni asked, some of the people gathered there, well, what do you want? And they said, well, we want a parish. And he said, well, I don't have a priest to send. And then a couple of guys pointed at me and said, well, make him the priest. It's kind of funny. So since I had been in a Catholic seminary for 7 years altogether. And so what Makarios Tirumeni did was he kind of accepted, what had happened with me up to that point. And then he had me do a couple of years of directed reading, and then go to Chicago for liturgical study with Cor-Episcopa Achen. And so that's what I did. Then I ended up going to Kottayam just to take some seminars for a little bit. So I was ordained a priest in 1987, and then we really got the parish, except we'd had occasionally somebody come, Tirumeni or somebody had come and done baptisms and Holy Korban and so on. But from 1987 on, then we really had a parish here in Spokane. So we weren't typical of the history of most parishes in the United States. Although I picked up on a lot of things just because, Tirumeni, wanted us to come to, some of the diocesan conferences every summer, that kind of thing. When we started, we only have, I think we had 11 families when we formally were accepted as a mission. It was a mixed background, Eritrean, Ethiopian, our family, a few families of various American ethnic backgrounds. And then we started doing things like, we'd look, for example, it's pretty easy to tell an Armenian name if you know the rules of how their last names are formed. So we went through, this is old technology. We went through the phone book and we started, and when we saw an Armenian name, we'd underline it and we'd call it, that kind of thing. But it took a long time. And we had to rent for years and years. I think we rented the first 15 years of the parish, we rented. And only in 2002 were we able to buy our first building. So we were around, for quite a while first. And then little by little, as the Spokane area changed and, we picked up converts, people moved into the area that, were already Orthodox and really wanted to join the parish. So we ended up going from being pretty small to being Well, the number of Orthodox parishes increased in the meantime, too. So we ended up being, I think we're like the second largest Orthodox parish in Spokane. So we just did whatever we could to kind of like get the word out that we were here. And just, you just never know. Once in a while, you bump into somebody who's really interested. And probably the Achilles heel of Orthodoxy is that people tend to think of it as, to confuse it with their ethnic group, So it's like, my church is for Malayalis, or my church is for Ethiopians, or the Byzantine Orthodox Church. My church is for Greeks. My church is for Russians. They don't think of the idea that Christ came for everybody, not just particular ethnic groups. And it's kind of natural to feel that way because over time, you have these local largely ethnic churches, but there are a lot of other people that are really impressed by the beauty and the depth of Orthodoxy, and so we just don't want to hide our light under a bushel basket, as it says in Scripture. So we made an effort to make sure that other people are aware of us, and that that they know the doors are open. And sometimes it's a huge process because our converts have come from just a wide range. They're very touched and moved by the beauty of the liturgy. I was very affected by the fact that the fathers and mothers of the early church are so much a part of Orthodoxy, which is a really great thing. That just wasn't the case in my experience in the Roman Catholic Church. They had many of the same saints, and they had the fathers of the church and all of that, but you didn't hear much about. You heard lots about, things that were much more recent, but you didn't hear anything about, as much as you should have about the roots of the church, where the church started and how it started. So that's always impressed me a great deal. We always have things we could learn, and I think one of the dangers for people born into the faith is that we just kind of think, like you said, it just becomes something where you've just kind of taken it for granted, not spent any time studying and learning about the faith. Just kind of figured, by osmosis somehow you've absorbed all this stuff. But it's a lot more complex than that. And our faith is both simple and at the same time very complex. It's very hard to. Some things we can't fully grasp. You and I as human beings, we cannot grasp the Holy Trinity. We can believe in the Holy Trinity, and we know that there's a great mystery there. We can't grasp it the way we can grasp some simple thing in our world that's very concrete with us. We can learn all about a cell phone. We can learn whatever profession we're going into. We can learn lots about that, but it's not this. We don't think about learning about the faith in those ways. We think about just kind of like, I'm here, I've got it, and then when something comes up, sometimes people become confused. They get very, somebody asks them a hard question, they suddenly realize, geez, I can't answer that. I don't know why the church believes this or that. I don't even know what it means. Or maybe they ask them a question about something they don't even know the terminology. So that can be embarrassing. That can happen to a person who's like a cradle Orthodox person if they're not careful. Once you're sure you believe in God, and once you recognize that. If God in fact loves us, why wouldn't He do something for us to help us, have some possibility of a relationship with Him? And then if you begin to look at, even if you look at religions comparatively, you will see that, frankly, there's something special about Christianity, and Orthodoxy more special yet. This is the only religion that teaches that God is love, for example. No other religion does that. People sometimes try to act like, if people say that, He's got love for us too, but they just pick that up from Christianity. That's not really how it is. So we're the only faith that teaches God is love. And then if you look at the history of the church, you will see that Orthodoxy begins at the very beginning. Even though the term Orthodox, the term Catholic, the term Orthodox, those terms were not used at the very beginning, but they were used a long time ago. The term Catholic, universal, comes from about the year 90 AD, so not all that many decades after Lord had died and rose from the dead. So But you can just trace Orthodoxy right back to the very beginning. And the things that were part of the early church, I mean, you can see them in Scripture if you know what you're looking for. A lot of people don't, so they read right past things and don't pick up that, such and such a passage is talking about the Holy Quran. So those things are all there. It's just you have to know what you're looking for. Always like the great reverence in the faith. I mean, when we celebrate the Holy Quran, we're celebrating, there's an awareness of the presence of the body of Christ there on the altar. And it makes such a difference. It makes such a difference. I mean, I remember I don't know if you've ever read any of her works, and she's very famous. There's an Antiochian Orthodox woman named Frederica Matthews Green, who's written quite a number of Orthodox books, very fine writer. She's also a convert. And she came from, I think she was an Episcopalian, but anyway, she came from somewhere with a much less developed liturgical tradition. And she said the first time she saw an Orthodox liturgy, first she didn't like it because, she said, well, this is not about me, which is really a profound thing, because when we go to the Holy Qurbana, we're there to worship God. It's not about us personally. We're not there to feel a sense of fulfillment or, whatever. We're there in order to, we're there in order to worship God and in gratitude for what He's given us, and in gratitude especially for the holy mysteries for the body of God. And so that's what really, that's really one of the things that sets us apart. And so that kind of helps me. I really love the liturgy. So that's why I'm Orthodox, I guess.